All right, folks, there are 1.9 million female veterans, making up almost 10% of the total population. It is estimated that 1 to 2% of all women veterans and 13 to 15% of women veterans are living in poverty. They experience homelessness for more than a year. Veteran women are more than twice as likely as non-veteran women, and over 3 times as likely as non-veteran women living in poverty to experience being homeless. My next guest is competing in the Ms.Veteran America pageant, and as a formerly homeless vet, she ensures this issue gets addressed. Terrace Garnier joins us from Upper Marlboro, Maryland. Yo, what up?
Hi, good evening. How are you?
All right, so this is the thing. So we often see these stories and people talk about vets who are homeless, and oftentimes they're showing men, but what you lay out, how many women who have served have been homeless. Walk through your story and what you heard from so many others.
So basically how I got started in Ms.Veteran America, I was doing some research, and for decades, I've always wanted to build a home for abused women and children because I came from a home where my mother and I were in an abusive situation. So I always wanted to build a home that could house these kinds of women and their children. And so I was doing some research, and I came across Ms.Veteran America, and their mission aligned completely with mine in the fact that they help various veterans across the country, specifically homeless veteran women and their children. They've helped over 7,000 families since they started in 2010. And so I read into it and I said, wow, this is something I want to be a part of. And as I was doing research and trying to get other people to come out about their experience being homeless, no one wanted to do it. And so for me, I said, well, I'm the kind of person, I don't ask people to do something I won't do. And so basically I said, okay, people don't feel comfortable talking about this. It's embarrassing. There's all different types of reasons why people don't want to talk about this. So I said, well, I'm going to be that guinea pig then. I'm going to talk about my circumstance and my situation, and maybe that'll encourage others to want to come forward about their stories as well. And so for me, I was a network news reporter, and I was homeless. For a month, I was couch surfing, and it was not a fun experience at all. I was living in my car for about a week, and then a friend was kind enough to let me stay in their 350 square foot studio apartment with my service dog for a month until I was able to get housing. But in that process, I reached out to the VA. I reached out to various programs in this area, and most of them, 1, wouldn't take me because I had a service dog. 2, they only had facilities that were for men and women, so they were co-ed. And for me, I'm a sexual assault survivor, which that's another point I would like to point out. Most homeless veteran women, 40% are survivors of military sexual assault. So I'm also a survivor. And so for me, I'm like, no, I don't want to be housed with some random man I don't know. And so, there's not a lot of options when it comes to that. And so that's why for me, it was so important to join Ms.Veteran America and help support and raise awareness, because like I tell everyone, if I, as a network news reporter, can be homeless, it can happen to anyone. And a lot of people and their perceptions of homelessness is, oh, they were addicted to drugs, they're crazy, they got PTSD, they got all these different things, but they never think of the demographic of couch surfing, those living in shelters, those who are living in a basement on a couch, until they can find housing. That is considered homelessness. And I think until we have the conversation and actually go in and define what is homelessness, a lot of people are going to overlook it, because when we mention that, like you just said, they think of men, or they think of the person who's sitting on a corner talking to an invisible person, begging for money. And that's not always the case.
Questions for my panelists. Representative Shannon, I'll start with you.
Well, thank you for bringing this story. I guess my question would be, what do you think could be done to sort of raise awareness around what's going on with women veterans in particular?
So I'll give you an example of something that I'm doing right now. I'm putting together a Portrait Gallery Fundraiser, and point of putting it together is to, 1, get artists who were veterans, and some of them are homeless veterans. So now they get to put on their work. They're getting support throughout the community by showcasing their work. Also, 2, it's building that network. So now we're all getting together, we're all networking with each other, and we're learning about ideas of ways that everyone can make a difference. And also with this gallery, I don't want people to just come and donate or just buy some art, but it's also going to be there to teach people, the average Joe, what they can do to help homeless veterans. So I'm going to give you a perfect example. Almost all the women I know has a closet full of clothes, and you probably have a dress or 2 in there that you've worn once and you haven't worn in years. Perfect example. Take that dress and donate it to an organization that helps homeless veterans. Final Salute has a program where they actually do makeovers for women. They will their hair, their makeup, they'll teach them how to do it themselves. They'll help them build their resumes. They'll do headshots, and they'll do training on what to do during when you're going to do interviews. And they give them clothes. So you got your dress, your shoes, everything you need to have a successful interview. So if you're a person that has a couple pairs of shoes you haven't worn, donate them. Donate those couple dresses that are in your closet. You know, if you see someone on the street and you think they're homeless, don't ignore them. That's the worst thing. And some of the photos that Roland just showed there, I was doing a series where I was trying to show different scenarios of homelessness. Now, I couldn't get anyone to do the photo shoot. So I said, okay, I guess I'll have to sit in and be the model for it. But what I learned while doing that photo shoot, I did it in New York City, and I also did it here in DC. When I was holding that sign up, people literally, like before that, people would walk up and say, hey, how you doing, before I had the sign up. And then the second I sat down and put the sign up, it was like a switch clicked. Those same people were instantly like, oh, and like, you know, started to ignore me and walk past and pretended like I wasn't there. And that's the one thing that you can do that you can change. And that's anybody can do that. Don't ignore them. Be polite. I don't care if you think they're crazy or whatever the circumstances may be. You can still be polite and not hold a conversation with them, but be polite. So, you know, donating your clothes, donating your time, find some local shelters that you can go help serve food. There's different programs where the kids need school supplies. Get some backpacks together. You can get 5 together, put school supplies in it, and find a shelter that has women and children, and ask them if you can donate those things. It's a lot of simple things that people can do, but I feel they don't do it because it doesn't impact them. They don't care. They'll say all day long, oh, I'm patriotic, I support the military, hoorah. But then when you say, okay, well, put your money where your mouth is, donate $1 to help this homeless veteran, it only costs $25 to house her, so her and her child isn't sleeping on the street, and you'll hear crickets.
Omakongo.
Or veterans, right?
Omakongo.
Ms. Gagne, one of the things I'm wondering is, I hear from administration to administration, I'm still hearing about problems with the VA and how it treats veterans. Are you seeing an improvement in the services that you all are getting with this increased spotlight that you're putting on the situation of homelessness? I never hear candidates mention it during debates or anything. Is the attention starting to change?
I feel that the attention is starting to change, especially after Vanessa Guillen and her murder. I feel like a lot of attention was brought on to the military and how they're handling things, the military and the VA, the Department of Defense. So I think because they have a magnifying glass on them, a lot of things have changed and gotten better. I will say that I know they have a lot of programs for homeless women veterans as far as like dealing with MST, military sexual trauma, different counseling services. But I also feel like it's just not enough. When you have a woman and a child, now granted, I don't have children, but when you have a woman and a child and she's sleeping in her car, mind you, gas prices have gone up. So she's not running her car to keep it heated, right? She has to go to job interviews, but she has a child. Where does that child go? Okay, so now you have that issue. So you have these programs, but you have people who they need childcare. They need somewhere to take their child while they're doing these job interviews. You know, they need someone to lay their head, somewhere to lay their head at night where they're safe. I've heard too many stories of women who have gone to shelters and they were co-ed. I'm gonna give you an example. There was a woman who went with an 18-month-old baby and they put her in a shelter in the same room with another man, and he was a registered sex offender. How is that ever acceptable? And so I do think changes are being made, but I don't think enough is being done because the conversation is not being had. It's kind of like, oh, we'll sweep it under the rug. And until people start opening up about their experience and start speaking up and saying, look, this is a bigger issue than you may think, then that's when real massive change will come about. But it won't start until we open up. And that's why I'm willing to say I was homeless and it was at no fault of my own. I wasn't on drugs. I didn't do anything wrong. But if we haven't learned anything during this pandemic, one thing we should have learned is things can happen that's completely out of your control. And all you can do is roll with the punches.
Julian?
And that's what happened with.
First of all, thank you for your service, and also thank you for lifting up this issue, which is a really important issue. You've also talked about what people can do, and you've talked about things like donating in many ways. And I always call those micro solutions as opposed to macro solutions. What should public policy be doing? What kind of laws need to be passed? Or should there be a carve out in the Veterans Affairs budget that says we want to have a carve out for homeless veteran women and women particularly? I'm happy that you mentioned the challenges of co-ed shelters, because there are all kind of things that could go on there. But if you were president for the day, what legislation would you propose to help homeless women, homeless veterans?
Well, just like you mentioned, the VA, I think they need to have a specific pot specifically for this that needs to focus on women veterans. So if we can get enough money raised and we can have it being offered through the VA, because a lot of these veterans are seeking services through that, that would be a tremendous help. If the VA could offer services like that, but also to try to get some non-military related organizations to be a part of this as well. Again, it goes back to a lot of people like to claim that they're patriotic and they support the military. So why is it that only veterans or other service members are taking on this fight to help homeless veterans? We served our country. We sacrificed. I'm disabled because I served my country, and I'll do it again. But the point I'm making is, if we're willing to make that sacrifice, not just service members and not just veterans should be willing to help other service members and other veterans, because we're fighting for your freedom. So why can't you make a difference and, donate $1, or, let's do marches and let's do, protests when female veterans aren't being treated the way they should be, as far as treatment, getting counseling, financial counseling, different services of that nature. We need to start banding together and start protesting these things, because if we don't, again, the conversation won't be started. But we need, and it's so important for people to not be ashamed about what happened to them. They have to start opening up and talking about it. We have to get the conversation going. So if I were president, I would make a whole bucket where the VA would have their own pot to help out homeless veteran women and children. But I would also want to get other organizations involved that's not military related to also assist with this. And another thing that I've noticed has been pretty difficult, and I'm new to the whole fundraising scene, so this is all new for me. But, I've reached out to different organizations that help veterans, and a lot of them don't want to band together for one event, because they're concerned about, I'm not going to get the funding I need for my organization and things like that. And for me, I'm like, no, we're all fighting for the same cause. We should be bonding together and doing tons of different projects together.
Got it.
Because you get more results with mass amounts of people doing it versus individuals trying to do it. So I think if a lot of organizations will start bonding together and stop being so concerned about funding and it being taken away from them, if we're all helping each other, it's only going to help us all get more funding.
What's your website people can go to?
So I have an Eventbrite that I created for Portrait Gallery that I'm putting on, and I hope everyone can attend. It's going to have art from different veterans from across the country showcasing different scenarios of homelessness. So everyone can go on Eventbrite, get their ticket. It's $45. It's a virtual event. So no concerns about COVID or monkeypox or any of those things. And then I also provided like a Venmo barcode that people could scan if they just want to donate. We're also looking for sponsors. If anyone wants to participate, they want to donate their services during that time, during the event, please reach out to me. So I'm looking for sponsors, artists, and those who just want to partake and come and buy some artwork and show some.
All righty, and this is where all of your social media there. We appreciate it, Ms. Garnier. Thanks a lot. Good luck with it and raise a bunch of money.
Thank you.
Deuces. Folks, got to go to a break real quick. We come back. We'll talk about improving your gut health. There's also good bacteria and bad bacteria in your gut.